what have you been up to since we last saw you then? Apart from your holidays in rugby league, have you done anything exciting in rugby league? Was there anything? Oh, that's it. Woman of Steel. You're on the panel for that.
I was on the
the Golden Boot.
Golden Boot.
Yeah,
I was on the Man of Steel, Woman of Steel, and Golden Boot panels. Thank you.
Not on the Wheel of Steel.
No, my expertise was exhausted in the others. No, so on the Golden Boot is currently, we've shortlisted.
And we have to wait until next week after the wheelchair
beginning
games,
of December.
Because the wheelchair people decided we'll have some games later on, so you have to wait now.
Well, there's also South Africa
and South Africa.
The USA.
Are there any South Africans in the USA on the shortlist?
I don't think that's going to impact on the Golden Boot. It is on the world rankings, which is due out middle of December.
Can you say to International Rugby League, because you've got power, that they need to give out the Golden Boots 2020 and 2021?
Also, you think I've got power?
You're on the committee.
I'm not on the committee.
What?
There's 3 of us on the panel.
Panel, committee.
How easy is it then to select? I mean, the long lists were long.
Yes. So
which actually is quite good because
it was nice to get every nation involved.
Particularly Samoa, who had a really good women's.
And I think it was important to highlight players from each nation because at the end of the day, whether they're the top 3 or not, they've played for their country. And the fact that we've had such a massive, that's been the difficult part. That there's been that many internationals this year, which has been absolutely amazing. Just a lot of early mornings, a lot of recordings and re-watchings because I have
a question about the Golden Boot.
Yes.
Because Mr. Voss himself was very critical of the long lists.
Right.
Saying that you didn't need to do enough to get on it and therefore it devalues it.
Right.
But is there a weighting for the standard of opposition that you play? Because clearly, even on the now shortlist of 6, some players have performed at a level of excellence against the very best in the world. Some players have performed exceptionally well against opposition that they should beat. So their performances individually might have been better, but in a lower quality of game.
It's not, well, for the women's anyway, it's not that deep. It literally is.
So what's your thought process then?
So they wanted to try and get somebody from every nation. It wasn't a necessity, but I basically put forward who I thought was best in across the each game. And obviously with the Pacific Championship, who was good consistently from each nation.
Yeah.
And then from that list, we've had to shortlist it, and we all kind of came up with different combinations.
Did you do a 3-2-1?
Yes.
Ted Rogers.
Yeah. So different combinations. So the shortlist is much more based on, I think, performance. Like, it's hard, isn't it? Because England had that game against France, which is hard to remember unless you go back and watch it. Australia were outstanding anyway, so there's a couple of Kiwis that possibly could have been on it, but the shortlist is much more thought about than the longer list. I think it was just nice to highlight people from each nation.
Yeah.
Like look at Wales and like Bethan Dainton, who was outstanding for her the team itself. Like, England didn't get down the middle of that Wales team because the forwards are so good, but Bethan I think has been outstanding, and she was very good in the qualifiers as well. So she's had a good international period as well as a good domestic season as well. So I thought it was it's nice that she got.
And good publicity for Wales Rugby League.
It's massive, yeah. And I think, I think that what I really like about them is the score obviously was pretty horrific for them, but that's not Tom's plan. The head coach, Tom's plan is the World Cup. Mm-hmm. It was the first time they'd been in camp and got a coach to a stadium. I know it doesn't sound like much, but in terms of prep, it's that prep on the coach. It's the longer prep and the meeting before and having some time together.
Just being in camp.
Yeah, it's huge. And 2 of the Wales girls cancelled their holidays or shot the holidays so they can make it into camp. And, there's 2 million more people in Yorkshire than there is in the whole of Wales. So in terms of selection and getting people together, and Tom's fighting against Wales Rugby Union, who've just invested 1.5 million into the women's game.
Well, I mean, some would say that's a bloody bit too late for Wales.
But are they
still pretty crap?
Are they in the Women's World Cup? Wales? Do they qualify for that? I don't.
They made it into the WX2, which is the division down from the top flight of international.
So they're better than the men then?
I think Wales in general's on a bit of a run, innit? Whereas Wales Rugby League seems to be pushing through to fight against the Rugby Union, but seems to be progressing.
Well, we can talk about Rugby Union in a minute.
Yeah.
In the so without giving anything away, and it may not be decided yet who has won the Golden Boot. It may still be in your committee to discuss.
Mm-hmm.
Would you be surprised if an Australian didn't win the men's and the women's Golden Boot?
100%, yeah.
Yeah.
See, here's a different question. If the Golden Boot was, as it was, for the best player in the world, who is the best player in the world in your opinion? Not on anything...
Male or female?
Well, both.
Because I think it's Isaiah Yeo for the men.
He's been phenomenal, hasn't
Because
he?
for what he's done with Penrith, what he's done with New South Wales, and what he's now done with captain in Australia, I just don't think he can. I don't know if he's going to get the Golden Boot. I know he's on the shortlist. I would be amazed if anybody could put forward a case for anyone other than him as being the best in his position in the world and having had the most success among those who are also on the list.
Yeah. Well, I agree. I'm not on the men's Golden Boot panel, but I do agree he's been phenomenal. And I love watching the NRL anyway. So he's just outstanding, isn't he?
Is there anybody of comparable dominance in the women's game at the moment?
I think Taryn Aiken's probably is up there. Tamika Upton's had a really good season. They're probably up there for me in terms of
And to be honest,
it's a different question, isn't it?
Well, no, but if you were talking about who is the best player in the game this year and who is the best international player, it would be the same person. So again, I don't see how the Golden Boot is devalued.
Because we want it to be devalued so we can moan about it.
No.
So,
The
got
long
podcast to sell.
I
The-
do.
the
I
long-
want it
the
to all
long
be
list-
nice and happy and
the long list is interesting because I think again it needs to be made clear that the long list isn't necessarily about the best player overall. It's about the best players in each of the nations that have played, and there should be a longer time between the long list coming out and the short list. The short.
But it's like at the Women's Steel. Like last year, we shortlisted 5 or 6 players, and this year they want us to be in line with the men, so we only have to shortlist 3.
But then
Apart
the
from the
wheelers,
wheelchair,
the
who
wheels,
have-
Which then,
yeah.
which then wheelchair. But however,
That's a fiefdom of its own.
but then I felt bad, even though we'd kind of had a generalised idea who the top 3 were anyway. In our top 5, there were people that I think would have been worthy of having a mention of being on the shortlist. Do you know what I mean? So it's
Yeah.
like Anna Davis has been outstanding. But again, is she, that you go back to that point of she's in a progressing team playing against really hard teams and doing really well versus somebody like Leah Burke, bless her, who is outstanding in the top team but playing there for lesser people. Do you know?
Yeah.
So where are them two? And they're only couple of tries difference in overall. I think they're both similar, both very dangerous. I'd say that Anna Davis this season maybe been a bit snappy for me. However, Leah Burke, bless her with the injuries and stuff. So is that the same kind of comparable thing you make in sense of who's actually had the hardest season?
At that England-Wales game, you were doing the getting in the way of people in the warm-up thing.
Yeah.
And when you finished that, you had to go back to the studio, and I saw you running.
Yes.
Was that the fastest you've run at Headingley? What?
Oh, bitch.
I mean, the answer's yes, obviously. But
No, I think you find in 2018 when the day I snapped my ACL, I was having a right game. I set up 3 tries.
yeah, but
that
no one
day.
was watching women's rugby then. So
No, but
so it's
I was a lot fitter. I was probably about 25 kilos lighter as well.
I told you we were going to interview you at the Challenge Cup final, haven't I? Before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You haven't interviewed me at Challenge Cup.
No, but I mean the 2018 one. We were going to try and get you in. You know when we did it on the BBC.
Yeah.
But I was too scared to come over and ask you for it.
Oh, you don't like when people say they're scared. I'm not a scary person.
No, I'm scared.
Now you know me.
Daniel Anderson was scary.
Yeah. Well, that's just his opinion.
You preferred Daniel Anderson.
I was sent Tom over to get you, but I think he was busy actually doing work.
I was probably crying.